Hi, Stuart. It's always a pleasure to greet you, and today we're on Bunurong land, and I want to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land and celebrate their ongoing connection to it. So it's Reconciliation Week, a time for Australians to learn and celebrate our shared histories, our rich cultures and the achievements made by many First Nations peoples as well. It's also an opportunity to explore how we can continue to move forward in our journey of reconciliation with our First Nations peoples. So the theme for Reconciliation Week is Be a Voice for All Generations. What does be a voice mean? It sounds a little bit activist. What does that mean?
Well, it is activist, and it's based and rooted in our mission and value statements, which, as you know, which says wherever there is hardship and injustice, Salvos will live, love and fight with the love of Jesus. And our mission tension says that we show the love of Jesus by working for justice. And having a voice actually lives that out in reality. It's a voice for change. Not only that, it actually helps us to be that voice of Jesus, because Jesus was a change agent. He called out injustice when he saw it. And so this year's theme naturally aligns with that. Just the last few years, we've launched a rap, which actually helps us to listen better and actually helps us to take action in spaces where we work alongside Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. One of the elements of the rap is that we've learnt and understood more about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and our shared history. And I'm proud of where we've come as a movement. There's still a lot more to do though. So being a voice means standing up for change and actually proclaiming that change and calling it out. We've had many discussions over the last few years. We need to have some more. And it builds on the knowledge that we've got and had, particularly through our cultural competency, things that we've done through the last RAP.
So the Reconciliation Action Plans actually helped us to grow capacity, perhaps to be a voice moving forward for and with First Nations peoples. What about with the theme where it talks about for all generations? How does that work?
Well, I love this part of the theme this year because it acknowledges that we stand on the shoulders of others, and as we've learnt through our Reconciliation Action Plan and through the cultural competency, there's been much activism for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples for many years. And our voice stands on top of that. So it acknowledges the generations that have been. It also is a promise of hope for the future, for the generations who are yet to come. And we are hopeful about using our voice and along with others, that generations to come will be able to have a life that is flourishing.
That's a timely reflection because, as you know, we're approaching at the end of this year a referendum to enshrine a voice for First Nations peoples in our Constitution. What can you tell us about that referendum?
Well, the referendum question is a very simple thing. We either say yes or no to the question, will there be a voice to Parliament for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people embedded in the Constitution? At the end of the year, all Australians will get an opportunity to say yes or no to that question.
Okay, so what can you tell us about the Voice to Parliament? What do you know?
Well, the Voice to Parliament is a body, a representative body, which will speak directly to the Parliament, the Federal Parliament and the Federal Executive about matters that are important and pertain to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
Why would then the Salvation Army support the establishment of this voice? I think I know the answer, but you tell me, why would we do that?
Well, we are a practical people and we see too often firsthand the injustices that our First Nations people experience right across the country. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are overrepresented in all of our services, and we just need to do better. And so a voice to Parliament will help the government more particularly have better legislation and therefore better policies and therefore better outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We know that when we listen, we get better outcomes for the people that we serve. We're asking the government of Australia to do the same.
Can you tell me how we as a movement, as the Salvation Army, have prioritised a voice for First Nations peoples in our movement?
We've done that in a number of ways, and we've just finished our first national RAP, which is very exciting. We mentioned that earlier. And as part of the process for developing that RAP, we went through an intentional listening exercise with our First Nations peoples within the movement, but also with all people within the movement. We also, before that RAP, had a reference group, an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander reference group, and they asked to become an advisor group. And so that group now advises the board, the TC, and also you as Chief Secretary on how we are going as a movement. They were asked for that, and that's what the Salvation Army delivered. One of the other key elements that a now advisor group asked for was to improve and lift our cultural competency. Now that was embedded within the RAP, but it's something that I'm really proud of as a movement we've done. We've gone right across our movement where we've engaged with people who deliver services to First Nations peoples. We've had a compulsory cultural competency training.
Yeah, I'm really proud of our people having engaged in that cultural competency course. It was quite extensive for a number of people, but the learnings have been quite significant for all of those people. Thanks for motivating and encouraging us as we undertook that training. Now, you pointed out earlier one of our mission intentions here at the Salvation Army, one of the ways we share the love of Jesus is by working for justice. So how can an individual actually support a voice to Parliament? We've talked about how the organisation does, how the movement does, and how Australians can, but how does an individual support a voice to Parliament, and what are the further steps to achieving reconciliation?
Well, the first point to do is to actually get some understanding of our shared history. And if you're an employee or a volunteer, we can actually complete the cultural competency training if you haven't already done that. But the second point, and this is what we're calling all people to do, is to actually have respectful discussions about the voice to Parliament, our shared history with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and what that might mean for the future. We're intentionally within the mission portfolio creating more resources to help people have those respectful conversations, as well as pointing to factual information rather than hearsay, which unfortunately there's a bit of that floating around at the moment.
Thank you, Stuart, for your time today. I want to thank you for your investment into our Reconciliation Action Program, for your constant encouragement for us as a movement to consider First Nations peoples. Thank you for helping us to continue to walk this journey of reconciliation every day.